The envelope showed up at 3:07 p.m., slid under the lab's security door like it had a key of its own. No return address, no courier badge, just a thick, wax-sealed packet and a sticky note that said, "Found in a private archive. Deal closes tomorrow. You'll want to see this." Inside was a newly discovered document, parchment-colored paper, elegant ink, a signature that belonged in a museum, and a story that already sounded like it had lawyers behind it. The kind of artifact that doesn't just make headlines. It moves money. It rewrites ownership. It changes who gets to say first. Tomorrow morning, a massive acquisition was scheduled to finalize, quiet, legal, permanent. One clause depended on a single historical claim. If the document was real, the deal swung one way. If it was fake, it swung the other. On the last page, in pencil, someone had written, "Carbon tested, discreetly." Eli didn't look like the kind of person who could derail a billion-dollar plan. He looked like a guy who forgot to eat lunch and didn't care that his hoodie had a coffee stain older than most interns. His lab sat inside a university building that smelled faintly of old books and new carpet glue. The place people imagined as harmless. Quiet hallways, locked doors, fluorescent lights. Until you remembered how often history decides who gets land, money, and power. Eli wasn't famous. He didn't do television segments or argue online with dramatic music under his voice. He didn't debunk for sport. He dated materials the way some people read fingerprints. Paper fibers, cloth threads, bone collagen, charcoal dust, glue, ink binders, the boring ingredients that everything important is secretly made of. His reputation was simple. When Eli gave a date, it held up in court. That reputation was exactly why the sticky note felt like a trap. Deal closes tomorrow. That wasn't a deadline, it was a weapon. A way to force speed, and speed was where mistakes lived. If Eli said the document was modern, he'd be painted as the villain who killed a miracle discovery. If he hesitated and the deal closed anyway, the world would swallow a fake so clean it would become real. Filed, stamped, and defended. Because once a forgery gets accepted, it doesn't stay a forgery. It hires lawyers, it becomes precedent, it turns into policy, it grows teeth. Eli had seen smaller versions of it. A forged diary that became a town's pride until his report made him a target. A rare letter that collectors wanted so badly they accused him of sabotage. People didn't argue atoms. They argued the person holding the report. And this time, the stakes weren't a museum's embarrassment. This time, the fake could change a major transaction. Maybe ownership, maybe rights, maybe control. Something big enough that powerful people had already decided what the truth should be. That was what made Eli's phone feel heavier in his hand. Not because he was afraid of being wrong, because he suddenly understood that being right might be the most dangerous thing he could do. Eli didn't start with the handwriting. He didn't start with the ink color or the dramatic signature. Those things were traps. Beautiful distractions designed for human eyes. He started with what the document was. Paper wasn't paper to him. It was crushed wood, plant fibers, something that used to be alive. And living things all share the same habit. While they grow, they breathe in carbon from the air. Tiny pieces of the atmosphere woven into their bodies like threads. When the tree is cut and turned into paper, that breathing stops. Whatever carbon is inside the fibers is locked in, frozen at the moment the plant stopped living. That's the classic idea people know. One type of carbon, carbon-14, slowly fades away over time. Like a clock that ticks down. Measure how much is left, and you get an age estimate. But Eli's favorite part wasn't the ancient clock. It was the modern signature. He pulled a whiteboard closer and drew a simple curve. Up like a hill, then down again, like a wave cresting and fading. "Here's what most people miss," he said, mostly for the camera he'd switched on over the bench. The sky changed. In the 1950s and early 1960s, above-ground nuclear testing dumped extra carbon-14 into the atmosphere. Not a little, a lot. The amount in the air spiked sharply, so sharply that scientists could see it like a heartbeat on a monitor. Plants absorbed that spike immediately. Trees locked it into their rings. Cotton locked it into its fibers. Everything that grew during and after that era carried a chemical timestamp. It was called the bomb pulse. Eli tapped the peak of the curve with his marker. "If a plant grew before this spike, it doesn't have this signature," he said. "If it grew after, it does. And the shape matters. The rise and the fall tell you where on the timeline the material belongs." Then he did a demo the way he liked to do it, simple enough that a tired person could follow it at midnight. He took a strip of plain office printer paper from a sealed bag and held it up. "This is modern, boring, reliable." He set it beside the ancient document. Under the lab lights, the difference was theater. One looked like history, the other looked like paperwork. "Now, here's the part forgers hate," Eli said. "You can make modern paper look old. You can stain it with tea, smoke it, bake it, rough up the edges, even bury it for a while. You can fake smell. You can fake color. You can fake wear." He paused, letting the list land. "But you can't fake the atmosphere it grew under." He pointed to the curve again. "That carbon signature is inside the fibers. It's not on the surface. It's not dirt you can wash off. It's not a smell you can add. It's like glitter in a carpet. Once it's there, it shows up everywhere, no matter how many times you vacuum." Eli picked up a scalpel and cut a sample from the margin of the document. Tiny, comma-sized. Then he cut an equally tiny sample from the office paper. 2 vials, 2 labels, 2 stories. "One of these should scream modern," Eli said. "And if the other one does too, then no amount of aging can save it." He set the vials on the bench and looked at the document again, not with awe, but with a quiet kind of challenge. "People think radiocarbon dating is a time machine," he said. "But with post-1950 materials, it's closer to a lie detector." And somewhere beyond the lab door, a soft, controlled knock returned. As if someone had been listening the whole time, waiting for the moment Eli's science became a threat. The document was a masterpiece, at least to anyone who believed their eyes. Under the lights, it looked like time itself had handled it. The paper had that warm, aged tone people associated with old, not the cold white of modern stock. The ink sat in the fibers the way museum ink was supposed to sit, softened, not glossy. Even the edges were worn in a way that felt accidental, like decades of careful turning by careful hands. Eli hated it, not because it was impressive, but because it was convincing. The more perfect the illusion, the more dangerous the truth became. A bad forgery was easy to kill. A great forgery didn't just fool people, it recruited them. Everyone who wanted the story to be real would defend it, loudly, and anyone who questioned it would sound like a destroyer of dreams. Eli pictured the meeting tomorrow morning. The lawyers in tailored suits, the neutral experts who would already have their quotes prepared, the people who had flown in to witness a historic moment and didn't want a man in a hoodie to ruin their photos. If Eli walked in and said, "It's modern," the room wouldn't hear atoms. It would hear motive. Who paid you? Who are you trying to help? Why are you doing this now? That was the risk of a visually perfect fake. You didn't just have to prove it wrong. You had to survive being right. And out in the hallway, the soft knock returned, measured and calm, like someone reminding him the world was waiting. The machine finished its warm-up with a quiet beep, the least dramatic sound imaginable for something that could topple a narrative. Eli ran the control sample first, the office paper. Boring, predictable, necessary. He watched the instrument's early red settle exactly where modern material should land. Then he ran the comma-sized fleck from the ancient document. For a moment, he didn't breathe. The curve on his screen didn't drift toward old. It leaned hard toward the post-1950 signature, toward the altered sky, the era with the barcode. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't close. It was there. Eli's stomach tightened, not with victory but with dread, because now he had the kind of truth that didn't stay in a lab. It demanded consequences. He printed the preliminary output and stamped it with time, instrument ID, and sample code. He saved the raw file twice. He turned the overhead camera to capture the readout clearly. If this went sideways, and it would, he needed receipts that could stand up in daylight. From the hallway came a voice, close enough to sound intimate. "Eli," it said, calm and confident. "We need a minute." Eli didn't open the door. He didn't ask how the person knew his name. He already knew the answer to that. Someone had done homework. "Who are you?" Eli called. A pause, then the voice replied, almost friendly. "Call me Victor. I represent interested parties." Eli looked at the modern leaning curve on his screen and felt the story snap into focus. The document wasn't just a fake. It was a fake that someone needed believed by tomorrow. And Victor wasn't here to debate science. He was here to prevent the result from becoming real in anyone else's mind. Eli's phone buzzed with an unknown text. "You don't want to be wrong on this." Then another. "There are people who won't forgive you." Eli didn't answer. He did the only thing he could do when pressure arrived. He built a chain of truth. He started recording everything. He photographed the samples. He narrated his steps out loud, like a courtroom witness rehearsing for the stand. He wrote down times with shaking precision. And then he called Maya. Maya wasn't a celebrity reporter. She was the kind of investigative journalist who hated drama and loved documents. The kind who didn't publish without proof and didn't flinch when powerful people got angry. When she answered, her voice was sleepy but sharp. "Eli?" "Maya," Eli said quietly. "I have a historic document that's about to change a major deal tomorrow morning. I just ran a bomb pulse check. The paper carries a post-1950 atmospheric signature." Silence on the line. Then Maya's tone shifted from sleepy to electric. "You're sure?" "I ran a modern control sample beside it," Eli said. "They land in the same region." Maya exhaled slowly. "Okay, don't tell me a story. Tell me what you can prove." Eli's shoulders loosened by a fraction. "Video, timestamps, instrument logs, control comparison, chain of custody." "Good," Maya said. "Get it off your machine, now. If they isolate you, they isolate the truth." Eli shoved files onto an encrypted drive, while Victor waited in the hallway like patience in human form. Campus security arrived before the door did anything worse than rattle. Two officers stepped into the corridor. One introduced himself as Ron. He spoke carefully, eyes scanning for trouble. Eli opened the door only after hearing the badge number and seeing the uniforms. Down the hall, Victor stood with his hands open, smiling politely, as if he'd simply gotten lost on a tour. Ron frowned. "Sir, can we help you?" Victor's smile widened. "Of course. I'm here because Dr. Eli is under a lot of stress. We're worried he might misinterpret a preliminary result. It would be tragic if he damaged a historic discovery. Eli almost laughed at how clean the move was. Not he threatened me. Not he tried to stop the test. Just, the scientist is stressed. That was the new battlefield. Not the carbon, the credibility. Ron escorted Eli out of the lab and into the cool night air. Across the street, a black SUV idled with tinted windows, engine humming like a quiet threat. Maya texted, "Need second lab. Need public-facing demo. Tonight." Eli read it twice and felt the reality click into place. If this stayed private, it could be crushed privately. They moved Eli to the campus security office, a windowless room with a wall-mounted TV and a lock that felt sturdier than hope. And that's where the third step walked in. Ron returned, uneasy. "There's a man downstairs asking for you. Name's Cal. Says he's a donor. Says he funds the university. He has private security." Eli's stomach sank. Victor was the messenger. Cal was the machine. On the lobby camera feed, Cal looked like confidence made flesh. Expensive coat, relaxed posture, 2 alert men flanking him, and Victor hovering nearby like a shadow with teeth. Cal didn't look angry. He looked like someone who was used to buying outcomes. Maya's voice came through the phone, low and urgent. "That's your opponent. Don't meet him alone." Eli watched Cal gesture toward the security desk, casual as ordering coffee. Then Cal glanced up toward the camera, almost like he knew Eli was watching, and gave a small, polite wave. Like this was already decided. Eli felt something cold settle behind his ribs. Cal didn't believe the deal could be stopped. Cal believed Eli could be managed. Eli made his decision the way he always made hard decisions. He chose the option that could survive an attack. He mirrored his laptop to the wall TV and set up a simple 3-part demonstration for Maya to record. The bomb pulse curve, the modern control sample, and the document sample sitting in the same modern region. When he spoke, he didn't sound like a lecturer. He sounded like someone explaining how a lock works before showing you the key. "The sky changed in the 1950s, Eli said to the camera. "It left a signature in living things. You can't scrub it out of paper fibers. If a document claims it's from before that era, but it carries that signature, it's modern material pretending to be old." He sent Maya the recording, the raw files, the photos, the logs. And as the upload finished, Cal's voice echoed from the hallway outside the security office, smooth, irritated, louder than it needed to be. "Gentlemen," Cal said, "I'm here to resolve an issue, privately." Ron looked at Eli. "What do you want to do?" Eli held the encrypted drive like it was a heartbeat. "This," he said quietly, "is the price of knowing." Then he looked into Maya's camera one last time and added the line that made his choice irreversible. "If they tell you this is just opinion, ask why they were so desperate to keep me quiet before tomorrow's deadline." Outside the door, footsteps approached, controlled, confident, while the clock kept sliding toward morning. And Eli understood that the last step of escalation wasn't the science. It was what came next. Saying the truth out loud, in public, before the deal closed. While powerful people tried to make him disappear without ever touching him. Cal didn't raise his voice when he finally got Eli on the phone. He didn't have to. He spoke the way people speak when they believe the world is a set of doors and they own the keys. "Eli," Cal said, calm as warm glass, "you're doing something reckless. Preliminary numbers get misread all the time. And when they do, people like you pay for it." Eli stared at the mirrored screen in the security office, the curve, the control sample, the document sample sitting in the same modern region. The science was clean. The pressure was not. "Then show me where I'm wrong," Eli said. A small laugh from Cal. That's not how this works. And that sentence, simple, casual, cracked the whole night open. It wasn't about persuading Eli. It wasn't even about silencing him with money. It was about controlling what reality was allowed to be before morning. Cal kept talking, still polite. You can hand the document back. You can keep your report private. And tomorrow you'll wake up with your career intact. My career? Eli asked. Yes, Cal said, as if the word tasted normal. You think you're protecting truth. You're actually stepping into a machinery you don't understand. Eli looked at Ron, who was listening without pretending not to. Looked at the security monitors showing Cal's entourage in the lobby, moving like they owned the building. Then Eli asked the question that wasn't about the test. Why is this document worth this to you? Another pause. Not long. Cal was too practiced for long pauses, but long enough to prove there was an answer he didn't want to say. Cal finally replied, carefully, because it stabilizes an agreement. Eli felt the twist land in his chest like a cold coin. Not, it's priceless. Not, it's a historic treasure. Not, it's worth millions. It stabilizes an agreement. Meaning the document wasn't the prize, it was the lever. Eli spoke slowly, letting the idea sharpen. This isn't about collectors. Cal's voice cooled. Don't romanticize yourself. Eli continued anyway. If it were about money, you would offer more. You'd buy me, buy another expert, buy a delay. But you're here tonight. In person, with security, with a deadline. Silence. Eli's mouth went dry, because the conclusion was ugly and precise. This is an influence operation, Eli said. The document is meant to become official truth fast enough that no one can safely challenge it. Cal exhaled once, and the politeness slipped for a fraction of a second. You keep using dramatic words, Cal said. Operations, influence, it's a contract. It's a contract that becomes law, Eli said, or becomes precedent, or becomes ownership, however your lawyers dress it up tomorrow. He could feel Maya listening through the line like a camera lens. Eli's voice stayed calm, but each sentence tightened like a knot. If this paper gets accepted as historic, it doesn't stay a story. It becomes the foundation for rights. It changes who gets to claim first possession, first authority, first control. And once that's filed and signed, you don't need the truth anymore. You just need enforcement. Cal didn't deny it. That was the clearest confirmation of all. Instead, Cal said softly, people prefer stable stories. Eli almost laughed. And you're here to choose the story for them. Cal's tone turned sharp. You are a lab technician, not a policymaker. Eli leaned closer to the phone. No, I'm the guy who can prove your history was manufactured after the sky changed. A beat. Then Cal's voice returned, low and final. Tomorrow happens either way, Eli. The only choice is whether you're standing in front of it or under it. Eli ended the call without a goodbye. He stared at the curve on the wall, up, peak, down, an innocent shape that had somehow become a weapon against manufactured truth. And he understood the real conflict now. Not science versus ignorance. Science versus power that wanted a document to become reality before daylight could catch it. Eli didn't sleep. He sat in the security office with a paper cup of burnt coffee, watching the upload bar crawl across Maya's secure channel like it was dragging truth through wet cement. Ron checked the hallway camera every few minutes. Cal remained downstairs, calm and immovable, as if he could outweight physics. Victor drifted beside him like a polite threat with a tie. At 2:11 a.m., Maya called back. It's live, she said. No celebration in her voice, just focus. The demo, the control comparison, the timestamps, the pressure attempt. We published with full context. Legal is comfortable. Eli felt something loosen in his chest. Not relief exactly. More like the moment you realize the room has a second exit. Outside, Cal's people started moving. Phones came out. Voices rose and fell. Even through a camera feed, Eli could see the shift. The machine was reacting to daylight. At 3:02 a.m., an alert hit Maya's phone, then Eli's, then Ron's, because Ron had been watching the same story on his own screen. A statement from one of the deal partners. Closing is suspended pending independent verification of provenance. Eli stared at the words until they stopped being symbols and became real. Suspended meant the deadline broke. Suspended meant the lie didn't get to harden into law. Suspended meant the document had to face more than belief. It had to face tests. By sunrise, 2 outside labs had reached out through Maya's network. Independent, reputable, hungry for the raw files. Eli sent everything. Control data, sample IDs, chain of custody notes, the full recording from the bench camera. Not just the conclusion, but the path. That was how you beat power. You made the truth repeatable. Around 8:30 a.m., city police arrived. Not campus security this time, but uniformed officers with body cams and a different kind of authority. Eli gave a statement about the attempted coercion, the unknown texts, the hallway pressure. Ron handed over preserved footage from the building cameras. Cal didn't wait for questions. He left early, exiting the lobby with the same calm he'd arrived with. Except now his calm looked less like confidence and more like damage control. Victor followed behind, still smiling, still empty-handed, but no longer in control of the room. Maya called again near noon. "They pulled it," she said. Eli blinked. "Pulled what?" "The deal, fully pulled," Maya said. "Not postponed, not renegotiated. The partners walked. Too much legal risk, too much exposure." Eli closed his eyes for a second, letting the words settle into him like warmth. Pulled. The fake hadn't become precedent. The document hadn't become a weapon. The operation hadn't landed. "And one more thing," Maya added, voice softer now. "A Federal Protective Services contact wants to talk. Because if this is an influence operation, it's bigger than a campus problem. They're offering protection." Eli opened his eyes and looked around the small room. Old couch, stale coffee, security monitors humming. The place where he decided the truth was worth saying out loud. "What about my job?" Eli asked, almost absurdly. Maya gave a short laugh. "Your job just got bigger." By the next week, Eli wasn't just a quiet lab expert anymore. He was the name attorneys requested when the stakes were high and the past was being used as a knife. He didn't become famous in the flashy way. He became something rarer, trusted. Because he'd shown the world a simple fact it could hold on to when stories got expensive. You can't fake the sky. And once people understood that, the fresh ancient forgery stopped being a miracle. It became what it always was, a modern lie caught in the act.